Hi there. Welcome to Productivi-Tree. I'm Santi Tacoronte, and I'm here to help you succeed and be happier. In each episode, we'll explore new ways to work smarter, manage your time better, and grow as a person. We'll share fresh ideas, find ways to improve, and help you become your best self at work, in life. Join me as we learn and grow together on Productivi-Tree. Hannah Bauer is the founder and CEO of Hartnomics, a leadership development firm with a community of 175,000 leaders worldwide. She is a certified Lean Six Sigma Black Belt, a Malcolm Baldrige examiner, and a Maxwell Leadership faculty member who has trained more than 50,000 coaches globally. She's also the first woman to chair the board of Ser Familia, a nonprofit supporting Georgia's families and communities. Her proprietary Hartnomics methodology blends operational excellence with human-centered leadership, turning culture building into measurable bottom-line results. She has nearly 30 years of experience helping organizations move from burnout and drift to resilience and competitive positioning. She created the Heart Index to help leaders measure and close the gap between human potential and actual performance. Hannah Bauer, welcome to Productivi-Tree.
Wow, thank you so much for having me.
Hannah, before we enter into this exciting topic we have today, there's going to be a lot about Six Sigma. Can you give a 1 minute, I'm going to put you on the spot here, a 1 minute crash course for our audience about what is Six Sigma?
Well, 1 minute. This is where you want to get Six Sigma to the 99.99999% accuracy. What does that mean? You have to have a way to detect when things are not inaccurate, where they're not accurate working, where they're not also creating the impact that you want them to create, or they're creating the wrong impact to the mission and the vision. Essentially, what we look at Six Sigma is what are the things that are going to happen? What's the impact to the overall mission, vision, and also most importantly to the customer. Because these are costs that cannot be passed to the customer. The better that we are in being efficient, it's going to make our bottom line, those profits, go even higher and a better experience for all, both internal and external customer.
Wow. Now,
I do it.
that was incredible. Now, you have gone from black belt in Six Sigma and expert to a leadership coach, CEO. How did you connect these three? How did you move from the more operational bit of Six Sigma into and translated it and scale it up to leadership?
Desperation. Survival. That's what happened. When we say over here, it's like what had happened is I have become really good at processes and systems. So good that essentially I broke the system because I left the one thing that really started me even in the process and system journey. And that was the heart of my people. That was the human aspect. We're not necessarily friends with data unless we understand what the purpose of data is. So one of the things I learned as I was implementing processes, systems, going into the fishbone diagrams, the why, like the current state process, and then we're looking at future state, and we're seeing how are we catching all these mistakes. Well, there's a lot of focus bringing in on what's going wrong. I mean, that's why you're looking for defects, but for the good of all. But putting those process improvements in a culture that cannot sustain those conversations is what, for me, created really an internal crisis, an internal fire, where we're trying to respond to the external changes. So what did that look like for me? When my top talent, I'm not being able to retain top talent, or having stressed workforce. And not having people really that not only the resistance initiative to change, I mean, there's excitement with change, right? We all like change. Yeah, it looks good. But the sustainability aspect of that change, of what it meant for us and really what it looked like, it could not take root unless I was also being just as intentional, if not more, in creating a culture that was going to really not only embody the vision, but where everybody felt like they belonged. So that was really my aha moment when I realized that I had to go back to my roots. I had to go back to heart. I think it's easy when you go into leadership to start saying, becoming what everybody else says you should be, right? Like, hey, you need to be operating by this, you need to be operating only by performance or key metrics, KPIs, getting all this stuff, being very scientific to it, which there's a place. The input output mentality, sometimes it gets into it, what is the linear part, except that you input the human factor into it and suddenly you have a very complex system. And a complex system with the humans is going to require complex solutions, complex answers, and that's where leadership came in. So I realized that leadership, raising my leadership bar, being able to create a culture that was sustaining not only the changes that we were implementing, the vision and the mission, became my own personal mission to be better, and that's where Hardnomics was born.
When you think about Six Sigma, measurement is everywhere.
Yes.
You cannot improve or you cannot measure. But when you talk to people, and you just refer to people a couple of times, let alone feelings and these kind of things, measurement becomes a little bit blurry, Hannah.
Yes.
How do you bring the measurement conversation, which definitely in business is very beneficial?
Yeah.
How do you bring it to humans, to people, to their feelings, to their problems, to their ambitions?
So there's a couple of things, right? When we talk about data, we have qualitative data and quantitative data. So the qualitative data, right, the ones that the things that we even respond with, like in those customer surveys that say, how was your experience today? Oh, it was great. Now, great for me may mean one thing. Great for you might mean another thing. So what comes important in our organization is when we hear great, understanding one is how important is that to us, right? So what's the impact? And what is our internal definition of great? Because we're looking at mapping out, we're looking at alignment with what the customer, for example, is referring when they say great. We have a value system to that. And that value system is really looked at what is the impact to our overall mission and what is the impact to the customer experience. So the main thing is, again, it's going to be based on culture. Like, again, I'm sure things that I think are great over here where I live are different than what you think is great over there. So we are very much have to be cognizant of that. But what matters here, again, we can only control the controllables, which is the other part. We can't control the outcomes, but we can control the inputs. So in being able to create what matters to us is creating not only the common language of the organization, which we all have it, right? I mean, you all have lingos inside, we all have different vocabulary we use internally, but also assigning, well, how important is this to us? And that is the mission is going to dictate to you what you need to be measuring, what is the impact of that measurement, and what are the metrics. So if we're talking about, hey, our mission is to provide great customer experience, and somebody uses the word great, okay, we have already defined great. What is great for us? That means that it was delivery on time. It means that they were able to, it was easy to do business with us. It means that they were able to, was it a whoa, wow, was it a, what was that, right? So we start putting metrics to that. And that's something we definitely want to measure. We could sit and measure everything, right? But what we want to be able to do is assign specifically those things that matter to us, and also what would be something that would not be great. Because if we understand, like, hey, this is a complete opposite, no, being that a defect in our customer experience, then we also need to have a definition of what that is. A lot of times I ran into problems even in my own organization and in my own company is defining what done is done. There was some people internally, it's like, oh yeah, it's done. Oh, it's almost done. Oh yeah, it's done. Or is it done? Or is it done? We even had 3 levels of done. So you're understanding, even they don't have to even be with the customer outside. It can literally be across departments, even within a department of what is that? Oh yeah, it's almost done. Almost to somebody may be 2 hours, to somebody may be 2 weeks, to somebody may be a month. So understanding again what the definitions and coming to an agreement and coming to those, not only the agreement, but the permission on what it is, what is the range that we have even in the language that we use. That's how we start making that a process. That's how we start looking at, okay, this is really, maybe there's levels to done. But as long as we're in agreement with that, we can say, is it done level 1? Is it done level 2? Is it done level 3? Or do we need to change our language so that we all know what we're talking about?
Hannah, you were the first woman to chair the board of Ser Familia.
Yeah.
There's a very different leadership context as to, corporations or boards. What did that part of your life and career teach you?
Oh, well, the importance of governance. So one thing is, in Great Familia, I still serve on the board. It's an awesome organization. Just seeing, I love the work that they're doing here in our city and really in the state. One of the things is, and this is what I find a lot with leaders, especially in the nonprofit sector, you have very passionate, visionary leaders. That there's this level of success that the organization may get because of the reputation of that leader. There's a level of success because of the immense amount of work that leader is doing, to the point of burnout. They basically they leave everything there because they're completely devoted to the mission and the vision. So one of the things in this case, I was not the executive director, but here I came as a board member in the governance aspect. So for me, it was a great opportunity to see, as a governance board, how do we amplify the work that the executive director is already doing, not in, which is what I've seen in a lot of other nonprofits, not where you're stopping, but at the same time you're also, because you have to be fiduciary responsible, so there's a financial aspect that we have to bring, but where it allows for the operational excellence to occur within the organization, and at the same time you are having the governance, an outside body who's not in the internal operations, but a governance body that is not only allowing, amplifying, and supporting the internal operations of a system. So for me, that was completely fascinating. How I was able to help with the processes and systems was able to mapping out what were the functions, what was the charter, what were the main duties that we had as a governance that perhaps were not being taken care of, or the entire weight of the governance was on the executive director. And also for the executive director, in between with our governance, how did the succession happen? How did we prevent from losing knowledge? And the way that we prevented losing knowledge was, again, we had to prioritize and understand what is the main thing. Strategic planning came into place. Not only the functions, but the systematic approach to the board also came into place, as well as the other bodies that we were responsible to, like the donors, the grantors. I mean, every single one of them becomes really a boss. Not just that, but then compliance issues, right? So there were things that they needed to happen internally, compliance, but also there was a lot of compliance dealing with the board. So understanding how do we keep a pulse on these compliance things, again, as a board that's not involved in the daily internal operations, but still is able to provide governance in all and direction in all things, and be responsible both fiduciarily and also to the standards that were being required from the organization. So I got to help with that, establish that, and really see the organization grow.
Hannah, in the lean philosophy, there is something called the 8 waste.
Oh yeah.
And it's defined as and correct me if I'm saying something wrong, the non-utilized talent. Mm-hmm. The waste of your most bright people that is not being squeezed, because you hire smart people to get the best of them. Mm-hmm. What do you think is happening in companies these days, and what do you think is the percentage of human potential is actually being wasted across businesses?
Sure. Okay, so that is a very interesting question. It's actually one of my passions on why I do what I do with Hardnomics. And I first became aware of it because here I am, right, as I'm doing my Six Sigma thing, my black belt, and, very data oriented. And suddenly it was even going back in my face, which I didn't see right away, the word human, right? I mean, there's literally an entire section when we're talking about 8 waste on the loss of human potential, and we use that in our language. Oh my gosh, there's so much potential in them. Oh my goodness. And we also talk about unleash your potential, reach your potential. We talk about that, but what is that? How do you measure it? How do you know as an organization that you're not having it? Well, when you're talking about potential, you're also talking about innovation, right? You're talking about the goodwill. You're talking about that gap even between what's being required and like the minimum requirements, but also the ability, like what we talk about, hey, going the extra mile. Well, how are you going to go the extra mile unless you have potential? So we know there's even another gear for all of us in what we can do. The question is not that if we have it, we know if we have it or not. Internally, we all know. But why are we not applying it here? Why are we not applying it now? So those are internal choices that we do. One of the things with loss of human potential, how do you measure it? Well, one of the first measurements we have is even in the $322 billion that are being lost, again, due to the silent quitting, the disengaged workforce, the burnout, the mental part. So all of those are symptoms, but they're all symptoms to the loss of human potential. The people that say, hey, I don't want to micromanage. Well, why are we even having to micromanage? Because we know that people can do this type of work, but somehow or some reason they're not doing it. Or even with all the tools to measure even keystrokes or making sure your cameras are on when we are during the time, I only really have a way to measure your presence, and I don't have a way to measure your productivity. And even if I can measure your productivity, how much of that productivity does it really take the 8 hours? But even if it took less, do I have a way to reward that? So when we talk about the human potential, it is the knowledge that walks out the door. It is that what we refer to the silent quitting. It is all part of that. And what does it cost? Well, it's costing us innovation. It's costing us results in getting solutions. We cannot try to continue to do the same, remain the same in a world that does not stay the same. Everything around us is changing. So if I don't have a way to be able to both honor, catch, and invest in the potential of my people, I am going to lose out on innovation. I am a product of innovation. I carry the scars of innovation in my body because of the battling a heart disease that at the time was incurable. Not only there wasn't research much on heart attacks in women, there's not really much research on heart attacks in kids at the time. It's just something that you don't get. So for me, I was battling not only a disease that didn't understand, but really when you're looking at a solution, you're wanting to understand the problem and not having really somewhere to look at from the professionals. Now, me as a kid, I didn't know that was all going on. All I knew is I couldn't breathe. All I knew is I couldn't walk or do the things. So what I did learn back in retrospective, once I got the phone call 20 years later after my surgery, I understood that the impact in that it wasn't just me. I was the first of 3,000 kids that were saved through the surgery, but also I got to hear my doctor in even their struggle in innovation. But what made them go the extra mile? Well, they saw the human, right? They saw me. They saw me as a kid. But not only that, they also had a belief. The belief that although operationally I had a dysfunction with my heart, that if they just used the knowledge or the tools that they had in a different way, that indeed that they could come to a solution. And I will say that same mindset needs to be used in our workforce, and that's what the loss of human potential, that's the danger. The danger is that we're not being innovative. The danger is that we're not looking at the current tools that we have, and it's not a fact about getting more. Even Lean Six Sigma, it's about really cutting out. It's about having less, but in that less, really there's more. What do we have that we can use in a different way? An engaged workforce is going to be relentless in looking for that. And that's where you do start seeing the product of that human potential.
If or when you go to fix this waste in companies, where do you start from? The senior leadership, the middle management, or the people that is doing the work? Because, we had a very interesting guest last week that said that generally senior management is quite aligned, but there's the middle layer that creates and interprets their own culture, and the ones that start creating those mechanisms of control and also diminishing the potential of humans somewhat, that creates that. So how do you go about this?
Okay, so usually the effect of all this or the dysfunction is felt on my middle line managers. I mean, they're really honestly caught in the middle, right? I mean, they don't may not be the ones that are making the decisions. They're carrying out decisions that may have come top down, and yet they're the ones that are at the front line for receiving what this decision or what this implementation is going to look like. So one of the things is usually, why do I come in? Obviously, if you're not the one implementing the solution or the initiative, you may not catch right away the response of the people when you start bringing out new processes, new systems, even new ways of doing things, right? So, the likelihood that maybe a C level or executive vice president or that part, or even a board member may come to like, hey, maybe we need to do something about this, is usually down the line, when at that point it went from a slight resistance to now I have a fire happening. So what does that fire look like? That may mean, hey, they got the sales, the profit, right? The profit and loss statement. So suddenly like, hey, things have gotten more expensive. Profit line is looking low. So how do I start? Usually that, or unfortunately lawsuits, or that we got fines because we weren't compliant in something and we didn't realize, nobody told us that we needed to do this, right? Or how can they not see that we weren't doing that? So how can they not be whatever? So that's where the question comes in. When I come in is a lot of times when there is a loss in the sense of the talent that has walked away, or a leader is not getting ready to retire and or move on somewhere else, and how are we going to replace this? What is it that they do? How are we going to implement, and realizing that perhaps there's not an immediate person, that it may even take 3 people to be able to do the work from this person that may no longer be there. So that's usually when I get called. That's usually when people like reach out, hey, we either have a crisis, right? Because that's the thing about crisis. Crisis don't create the culture, they reveal the culture. And suddenly some things may come to the surface that were not, that could be coped with or tolerated for a while. But when you are going fast, suddenly these not seemingly things that we tolerated become to the front, and it may become toxic. The other times I'm called is when they want to seize opportunity, or hey, there was an opportunity that we couldn't seize because we didn't see it, or this is really big but I don't even have the talent pool. How are we going to multiply it? How long is it going to take people to train so that we can go after a very good opportunity for us? And the other part is a strategic plan, where there's a strategy in place, but the strategy is not integrating into the daily activities. So those are the other times that I come in. So when there's already, hey, we got the strategy, looks great on paper, looks great on our walls, looks great on our state of the union address, whatever you call it, but it's not becoming integrated, being part of our daily lives. So how do I help? How do I usually come in? Again, they won't say that. There probably is a communication problem. So there's something wrong in communication. We're just somehow not, we're spending a lot of time in meetings. We're spending a lot of times like, hey, having to deal with fires every day. We're not able to really carry out strategy because we're having to deal with so many, perhaps even human resource problems, or we're having to deal with a compliance issue, or we're having to deal with these other parts, right? Or the loss, the loss of a client. So all of these things are like, hey, did you not see this coming? Hey, when was I going to find out? Why did nobody tell me? Those kind of conversations. So usually it's defined as a communication problem, but that really is what we see on the surface. At the bottom of it, you start seeing, well, what would be the processes for you to find out? Well, what is the feedback system? Then a feedback system means that it's a loop system, right? It's not a top down, because the communication is both ways. So what's your feedback loop? So in that sense is that we start looking at, it's not just a matter of me understanding, or let me go take a speech class, or let me go take a communications course. That yes, that's all part of it, where I can become a better communicator, where I can understand your communication part, but how do I integrate it into my daily processes, activities, with my team or whoever I need to speak with? How do we what's our communication process, our feedback loop with contractors, with global teams? because people sometimes think that, oh, well, if you're on global teams or on Zoom, I can just be task oriented and forget the culture. We're still humans. We still have needs. We have the need to belong. We have the need to have meaningful work. We have the need to be seen. We have the need to be valued, add value, be passionate. All of that still applies in a digital workplace. And that's also the other part where I help in, is what is the current culture in the different ways, in the different contexts that you perform work in.
Let's. You mentioned quiet quitting or silent quitting. I want to double down on this topic because I talk to a lot of people, Hannah, and a lot of people tell me, Santi, working these days sucks. Companies don't have any loyalty towards employees. Employees that obviously fire back not having any loyalty towards companies.
Right.
You can get fired in, or laid off on a quarter, short-termism, all these things. But I wonder, Hannah, how much is for the companies to fix as part of the culture versus how many external factors like, for example, inflation and the fact that your salary cannot buy half of the things it could buy 10 years ago. Do you think that there is a lot external as to what people think working in corporations or medium, large companies is not so great today? Or you think there is a lot to fix within the company culture itself?
Well, you got to think about it. Just think about the principle of a boat. A boat is surrounded by water. The problem is not the water. The problem is if the water gets in the boat. You're not going to be able to decrease the amount of water in the ocean. You still have to navigate in the ocean. So it's the same thing. With organizations right now, what seem to be very much external change or problems may not be an issue 5 years from now, but there might be another issue that's just as big. So it's understanding that, it's the waters. That's what we said. We have to navigate uncertainty. We're going to have to navigate crisis. We won't be able to stop the crisis that happens on the outside. What we can do and need to do is make sure that we are well, to keep the company afloat. So, yes, it's going to require consistent internal looking. A boat doesn't just, you build it once and then, hey, get off you go to the ocean and you don't come back to it again and put people in it consistently and think that you're going to make it to your destination every time. You don't. That would be irresponsible, right? Would you want to get on a boat or a ship that was checked? Last time it was checked is when it was created? No. So, and get on across oceans and waters that are not, and it's nice when there's still waters, but then a lot of times the ocean or water is typhoons. They're huge. They're huge waves. So understanding that there's always movement. So an organization is the same part. When we talk about leadership, we're consistently navigating. So what does that mean? For a ship to stay afloat, there's consistent communication. In times when there's storms, there's what? Over communication. There's things that are activated, systems that are activated specifically for times that may be rough. The same way, even like you talk about hospitality industry, there are labor groups that are activated in times of high demand. Because, hey, if it's the summer coming, I'm going to activate my contractor who can provide me with staff during that time. So you're activating things. So again, because I know what waters I'm going to be navigating, I won't know that even what I need internally if I don't have a direct pulse on what is it that keeps the water away, that keeps the communication going, and be able to remain afloat. And can I detect the water? That's a problem. If I cannot detect the leakage. So when we're talking about what you're saying, the silent quitting, that's leakage. I cannot detect that. Every person that leaves or every person that's not operating or producing at that part is a data point. Am I ignoring that data point or am I looking into that data? So we have to start also dealing with not only the people, if they left, why did they leave? Do I care? Absolutely, you're right. I mean, as far as like people like the input output, that's how we wish it could work. Well, it's not that easy. There's nothing linear. Success is not linear. You know, our earth is not linear. What is linear? I mean, there's always constant movement. What happens if you're linear and there's move? What happens? It cracks. You cannot do that. What is going to be more stable? Is a bridge completely linear? No, it's constantly moving. Why? So when you're talking about even businesses, you're talking about matrices, right? It means that you're operating by function, you're operating by responsibility. You're really talking about ownership, and this is one of the things that we're saying with the silent quitting. Well, it's a lack of ownership, but understanding who's the owner of what function. What is again my role clarity, and how does this all fit? Again, meaningful work, culture definitely tells you that. So if you have a business with high turnover, that's a part of their culture. It's not, oh, that's a problem against our culture. No, that is your culture. Understanding your culture, there's nothing that happens outside of your culture. It's like character in a person. Do you make a decision outside of you? No. It's the same. Character is to a person what a culture is to an organization. So if there was a purchase mistake that went unnoticed, that's the culture. That's a result of culture. Understanding that. If nobody cared even to catch that mistake and we just went on, the culture supports that because there's no clear reward or anything else to catch to say otherwise. Somebody not showing up or not doing the fullness of their work, culture supports that because it may not also reward those that are going the extra mile. So the culture supports that. We're humans. We adapt to our environments. So the main thing with culture is that what kind of environment am I creating that will support the initiatives, the vision, the mission that we all say we're doing here. And yes, that definitely requires the commitment and collaboration of every level of leadership. And that's really goes back again, not only to that, but also psychological safety. When you think about highly productive teams, they're also highly productive in the reason being is because they see the support, they see the role modeling, and they know where to go, even in a decision making. So psychological safety becomes very much to the forefront when we're talking about even the silent quitting, because that is an important thing. I mean, they said, what is it? Am I safe? Like last time I asked a question, I got shut down. I may have already quit after that. It's repeated time and time again. Oh, I get asked surveys as an employee. How was my experience? And I fill it out, and we never hear about it again until next year when we have to fill out the survey again. Does it matter? Because that's the thing about surveys. There is an expectation that when I fill out a survey, you're going to do something about it. And when you repeatedly don't, then you're telling me, even my voice, what's the point? It doesn't matter anyways. And that's what we're seeing the silent quitting again.
Hannah, you created the heart index. What is the heart index? What is the heart? Because I think it's an acronym. And how did you index it?
Okay, so there's a couple of things, right? So we can't go all into it, but heart, there's a couple of parts. Heart is a framework for the values-based leadership. So I have heart, the framework, but I also have in the heart index, we're not just measuring the framework, which is a values-based leadership. In the heart index, what we're measuring is the impact on the functionalities with not only the velocity, the ability to detect, but also what is the overall impact or not to the overall vision. So the heart index really brings in what each function is in a business, and we all have them. We all have systems. You may not know how your circulatory system is, but you being a human, you have a circulatory system. We have things. The reason why we're able to create diagnosis for illnesses or create healing paths is because there's certain patterns that we look at internally. Well, the same way, There's certain patterns that we look internally in an organization. So the heart index, really what it gets to is both the systematic overall impact of the system. The problem may be coming in finance, but it's not felt until you go to HR, when you can't hire the labor that you need to get over this high season. So you may think it's an HR problem because, oh, how did I know how to hire? But really, it became in finance because we totally misallocated the budget. So it's, again, looking, the heart index will help with that, as well as getting to the loss of human potential, because there are answers, just like in coaching. We believe in coaching that you already have the answers within you. We have to bring them out to the front, the discovering part. And the same thing, you don't need more talent, you don't need more systems, more processes, more all this, all that. What you do need to do is bring out the core from the inside of the organization to be able to operating at its maximum, so you can grow, so that you can innovate. So once you're in alignment, try driving a car that's aligned. It's beautiful, it's smooth, it goes fast, but guess what else it can do? It can slow down and not go be shaking all over the place. The heart index helps you do that.
So when you start implementing the heart index, because you said something very interesting, which is that a symptom in a department might become a consequence in another one. How do you connect? How are you able to connect all these symptoms and find the root cause where the actual thing is happening?
Well, Santi, that's where you have to be part of my community. That's what Hardomics is about. So it's not something I can go into deep, but understanding one, first of all, is that you have knowing. I think even I talk to many leaders, they don't understand, oh, we don't have a system for that, or we don't have a process for that. No, you do have a process for that, obviously, because if it's getting done, you have a process for that. It may all be in your head, it may all be in a piece of paper. That's still the process, So in looking at the one thing is the awareness, but in the heart index is understanding that everything has a function and everything belongs to a system, right? I mean, that's, otherwise it has a purpose. So we look at the overall purpose internally, and what is the point of this? I mean, haven't you ever been in a job where you do this, you do something, it's like, well, what was the point of that? Projects that maybe somebody did and you just never saw it to fruition. It's like, okay, why did we do all that work? Right? Have anybody done that? Yeah, I know I've been. We get involved in those things. So that's what the heart index gets into. The purpose as well to the activities that we do. And again, if it's not aligned to the mission or the vision, what are we doing?
You want to take a shot at AI?
Sure.
I will narrow down the question. Is it helping the culture, or is it making the bad cultures worse?
I think both. I think it makes great cultures better because you can do things faster, so you're aligned, and it makes the bad cultures get worse faster. so both of them, you have a faster. You want faster? Which fast you want? You want fast up or fast down? So again, it's kind of like you're adding a tool. It goes back to it. You cannot. It would not be smart. It would be foolish in our ends to believe that AI is going to solve my internal cultural problems. It's just give a tool to something that's already dysfunctional. It's not going to fix the dysfunction. It's going to create more dysfunction. It goes faster. So the problem that I see here, and really where your audience needs to look at, is who is governing the tool. And if your process and your system gives governance to a automated technology third-party tool, anybody who's ever had a website who has a third party and you can't change a thing because you got to control that, knows the frustration that you give governance, anything you give governance to somebody else, you lose a lot of the potential, the speed, everything else. So important in AI is have clear governance of these tools that goes back to the human is still has the responsibility and the authority. The problem comes in, again, if you're giving authority consistently to something else that we don't even know it completely understands us. we expect these answers from this understanding of who we are. Well, it's kind of like asking somebody else, tell me who I am and tell me what I need to do, when you don't know who you are yourself and you don't even know your dreams or your problems or your things. It's the same thing. So in an aligned culture, AI, beautiful. It amplifies the work that you do. It can help you get there so much faster. But in a misaligned culture, where already you're having silos, where you're already having leakage, where there's already the problems coming in, very easily problems will be amplified quicker, and we wouldn't even know that they're a problem. We're thinking that the solution is a problem, because understanding, every time you introduce a solution, you're going to introduce a problem. So the thing is like mitigating. I mean, try any change, right? I mean, like, even if you just go on a diet, if I want to go vegetarian, I'm going to have a problem every time my family wants to eat beef. So not even my problem. I'm going to have to adapt. I'm going to have to plan. I'm going to have to do things that I didn't have to do if I just ate beef with everybody else. I mean, that's just what comes with it. Same thing in the organization. Mm-hmm. Knowing that every solution is going to have a problem. It's going to impact somebody else. Question is, can you forecast? How do you mitigate it? And is it worth it at the end? Because, and you've probably seen that, the cure sometimes is more expensive than the problem. Is that good business? No, okay. We still have to fix the problem, but we got to look at a cure that's going to allow me not have all the side effects and it's going to kill me faster than the disease. So it just comes back to common sense, which is a beauty also that we have as humans.
Hannah, I have crafted 5 questions here that I want you to answer in 30 seconds. Want to do that?
Sure.
All right. Number 1, what is the single biggest waste in most people's work days?
Oh, the not urgent, not important things that we spend all day doing.
Number 2, Lean Six Sigma or emotional intelligence. If you could only teach leaders one, which one you choose?
Only one? My goodness, I guess emotional intelligence. I believe love does conquer all. And if we love, it will lead us to find a solution down the line.
Number 3, the one word that should replace burnout in every leadership conversation.
Fulfilled.
4, best question you have ever been asked by the thousands of people you have coached.
Okay, no, that's the hardest one. I can solve the world's problems, but not that one. The hardest questions I have been asked. What question are you not asking yourself right now that you should be asking yourself? That always gets me. I'm like, really? I mean, it makes sense because I ask the same question, so it's a fair game. What question am I not asking, and how do I really know I'm not asking? Can I identify that I'm not asking that in time for me to be able to do something about it?
And number 5, what is one thing that you want every person listening to eliminate from their workday starting tomorrow?
Waste, yeah, but I mean, doing the things that are not fulfilling. I think eliminate starting tomorrow, things that are not leading you closer to performing your purpose. That we all have a purpose. At the end of the day, we want to have that fulfillment. And it really is, what is that farewell address going to be to our letter to the world? And it only matters when we are living intentionally on purpose every day and receiving that fulfillment. And that is in any area of our lives. Give yourself a break, give yourself a time, get in touch with your purpose and do it.
Hannah, we just reached 25,000 monthly listeners. How can they reach out to you? How can they find you? How can they get in touch with you? How can they hire you? How they can know more about Hannah Bauer?
Well, you can find me the easiest place, Heartnomics. I'm sure you'll have also the handles on there, but LinkedIn, I'm very active on LinkedIn if you want to see some more of the work. And yeah, I am actually about to launch a community where I'm going to have a lot of nice nifty tools for all of y'all so you can start identifying not only how your heart index is, but get you ready in being really good in the alignment part and the fulfillment. So I look forward to having y'all in my community.
Count me in.
Yay!
Hannah, I want to thank you for They is very energetic and positive, and at the same time very assertive interview or conversation. I'm taking a couple of things away.
Yeah.
The first one is that I do believe we live in a short-sighted times. Short-termism is everywhere. Everything that matters is next quarter. But I think also that humanity is going to bounce back. And at some point when all companies start raising the alarms because people don't want to work for companies that doesn't have a heart, humans are going to raise up again and they're going to be valued again, even above shareholders and the next financial quarter. And the second one is I wanted to answer one question you posed here, even if you didn't ask me directly, but I would like to. You ask if I would jump into a boat that hasn't been checked since it was built. I wouldn't.
Right.
Hannah Bauer, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you for having me. Thanks so much.
Thanks for listening to Productivi-Tree. I hope you found something useful in today's episode. If you did, and it helps improve your life even a tiny bit, that'll make me really happy. Remember, you can find Productivi-Tree on all major podcast platforms like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Google Podcasts. If you enjoyed the show, why not share it with a friend who might also find it helpful? Until next time, and keep growing and stay productive.